Hey everyone, welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast, where we dive into the people, stories, and iconic moments that have helped make sneakers a global phenomenon. If you've ever told someone that you like their kicks, then you're in the right place. Before we lace up this episode, here's a little teaser for you. Stick around to the end of each episode for the last shot question. It's a chance to test your sneaker knowledge and engage with our community. I've also recently started a newsletter to share my knowledge from nearly 2 decades of experience working in the footwear industry. You can find the link to that below or go to sneakerhistory.com/newsletter for a weekly deep dive into the biggest topics in the sneaker business. All right, now that the business is taken care of, grab your favorite pair of kicks and let's get started with the episode. What up, what up? Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast. My name is Nick Ingval. I'm with my guys, Mike and Rohit, to talk about some kicks, starting off with some rockin' and coppin', and then getting into some important news, I would say. A lot of big news coming this summer, right? So, yeah. Rohit, why don't you start us off? You got rockin' and coppin' for us?
Yeah, I can be the leadoff hitter. I'm learning baseball terms so I can strengthen my bond with Nicholas Engvall. What I am rocking while I stall for time, I was able to hit on the 82 Field Generals, which damn good shoe if you can use an employee discount and a $20 gift card on top of that. So for $30, great shoe. Looks like a $30 shoe, not a $100 shoe, and I'm okay with that. As for what I'm copping, a couple of different things. First, because it's kind of been a very interesting time at Nike, I had a lot of friends who were able to still keep their jobs but are allocated in different locations. That being said, sometimes friends work on cool products, so I got some team-issued Kansas City Pegasus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's nice. And then, because I want to show that I'm bipartisan as bipartisan can be, I was also able to get a pair of the Harden 8s in that blue and white colorway. Now, the question I have is I've seen 5 different websites have 5 different images sets of the product, and I can't figure out what that white looks like in person. So that is going to be the conundrum for me, because if it's a nice off-white or even a clear egg white, I'll take it. But I saw one that kind of looked like a sepia filter, and I'm like, nah, that shit's not working for me, B.
I've heard cream. Cream
is fine. I don't mind cream. Yeah. But it's yellowing. If it's yellowing, I'm going to put the same amount of effort that James Harden does in a decisive playoff game in terms of trying to put them back. Because it was either that or hold that hope for a topic we'll get into later in the episode around the AE-1 lows, because those look great, but I already have a pair of 2 of the mids or the highs, whatever the hell you want to call them. But I'm going to stop talking because I talk a lot. Nicholas J. Engvall, what are you rocking?
Get your whole name.
Jethro. I believe Jethro is the middle name.
I hope it is.
Close.
I hope.
Hey!
Speaking of AE-1, I spent most of my time in Tokyo in these, and I have no complaints. That shoe is amazing. It's I'm looking forward to the lows too. I'm just lazy, so putting lows on is a little bit easier than putting the highs on. But the one thing I will say about that shoe is, like, for a basketball shoe, wearing it every day, like it was super comfortable. I mean, I've pretty much worn it for almost 2 weeks, with the exception of like the first few days that I was wearing Reebok Classics out there. But I feel like that shoe is absolutely living up to all the hype, and I love the idea of it being it's like one of the most recognizable silhouettes out right now. The Harden is another one. Yep. I think that's like something that is super underrated in the thought process around designing shoes, where I got into like a debate about this when I was at Finish Line, where like people buy shoes because they're performing some athletic thing in those shoes. But generally people buy the shoe so they can be seen from across the street or down the block or on the train or whatever. Like, they want to be recognized for that shoe. That's why you buy like a Pinnacle Air Max shoe or this Air Max DN, right? Because it's like there's wow factor to it. The AE-1 has that in a form of a basketball shoe. I'm not as big of a fan of the Harden, but like I also haven't seen them in person. But it's and like the marketing behind the AE-1 has just been amazing, which we've talked about at length. But yeah, I feel like it's the closest thing to like maybe an old school way of doing basketball shoes, which is exciting to me. So pretty excited to be wearing those. I actually got the All Stars too, so I want the pair that you'll see in a few minutes. But my other pickup was the Nike Cross Trainer 3s, I think, or Air Trainer 3, Air Cross Trainer 3s. I forget what they're calling these, but just kind of a classic summer colorway. This is like the I forget what is that Citrone colorway.
Yeah.
Just one of my favorite Nike
Classic
colorways. So I picked up those, and then I also picked up the Trainer 1s in that same colorway because both of them were like less than $50 a piece. So couldn't pass them up.
Where'd you get that from? Hold up, these are
There was
cheap
just
deals.
discount codes. It was in the Discord.
I'm not paying attention. Dang.
Sweet shameless plug for the Discord, Nicholas.
Yeah,
Perfect timing. Look at that. I love
Perfect timing. Can I ask one question? Because you were traveling abroad. I don't know why I stumbled across that word, but that's life. What was the feedback? Because we're all sneakerheads. We all know that sometimes when we wear a certain pair, it's going to get looks from sneakerheads and non-sneakerheads alike. How is the AE-1 in Japan? Because I'm very curious to see, because I think we've all fallen in love with Ant in America. Has he made the breakthrough or the crossover there yet?
I don't think so. Like, I didn't see anybody wearing them. I definitely had a couple of guys in some of the sneaker stores that I walked into, like, obviously looking and like talking about them with coworkers. But it didn't seem like... It doesn't seem like basketball has the same level of hype that it did for you know, like in the 90s, right? But I will say the nerd part of me and us in this trip that I took was that Slam Dunk has like a new version that just came out that is like everywhere over there.
the movie, right? It's
It's like the movie, but there's like I was in a bunch of different stores where like there's just so many promotional things where it's like, you know, like buy the whole series on DVD, but like buy the whole, like, I don't know, like just like books, magazines, everything you can think of, collectible type things, which maybe that will help drive the hype for basketball again and bring that back around. Because I do think that, you know, obviously basketball is a big deal, but it's not quite to the level of like Jordan era or Kobe era of like, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s when it was like massive over there.
Well, so like China and the Philippines are still huge in basketballs. Even like I think D Rose, he's so big out there. That's like the one Adidas athlete who is like still getting their shoe produce new ones over there. There's some like the ones we took a look at that we couldn't get here.
Yep.
They were Asian exclusives, and there's like I think different regions are different feelings about the Adidas basketball at least. Yeah.
I think, you know, like it's interesting too, because you think of like, you know, there's definitely some Kanye pushback that's obvious. You know, I walked into a lot of resale shops and like all the Yeezys are like on the bottom or in the back corner and like kind of hidden away.
Yeah.
But from what I understand from friends that are there that were explaining the situation, it's less about like in America, like people are offended by Kanye and they're like, I don't support Kanye. But there it's more of a bootleg culture where like there's so many fakes that come over on tourists that they don't want to be associated with people from other countries that are coming in wearing the fakes. So it's like, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. And I think like that leaves a lot of room for other things to step in there. That I'll probably save it for another episode to get too in depth on it. But yeah, I feel like there's plenty of room for the AE-1 and Adidas and even Puma to like really kind of level up on the basketball side there. And I don't know, like maybe it's just, you know, obviously Tokyo is very fashion forward too. So there's a lot of other brands that like pop up and that more lifestyle brands. So maybe people aren't or are choosing those lifestyle brands consistently over it. That's why the brands haven't tried to go back into the market as heavily, but it was an incredible experience. So
awesome. Cool.
How about you, Mike? What do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go in reverse order here. So my rockin' is one that I actually So we're recording on the May 3rd. It is on and Post Archive Faction. It's a South Korean brand. They came out with a capsule collection of this really cool like mixture of like high tech, running gear, but really fashion forward like renditions of like the Cloud Monster 2, and it is just super slick. It came in like a black and white color. They have a whole bunch of clothing junk to go with it. I mean, it's super cool. Just I feel like the On Cloud Monster has been really just one I wear a lot. The first one, I don't have the second one yet, but it feels like that shoe's becoming kind of that new technical runner that's going to be seen on someone in a grocery store or someone just doing a casual thing. And this particular one really solidifies this collaboration really kind of solidifies that mark, and that is super super clean. But for my rockin', I mean, I hate to mimic one Nick Engvall, but I had the Georgia Red Clay
the flashlight
AE-1
colorway.
Oh, yeah. I can't even continue at this point.
I was saving that on air because I was like, if I say that off air, he's gonna get used to it. He's gonna be braced for impact. But
oh, you couldn't. You're right. I could not. Oh my god. Man, you messed me up here. So yes,
the phone just started reconnecting on my end. So clearly, the joke even hit with the FBI agents that are laughing.
Like, oh crap, we messed up on the recording. Anywho, yes, this. Yep, I can't even say anything more than what Nick said about
Georgia Clay
the
colorway, because if I remember correctly, Ant Edwards honed his game on the clay courts in Atlanta, on the tennis courts. Mike, is that giving you enough of a segue?
No, see, I didn't care about that. The Georgia Clay of the red clay of Georgia, but he dunked the life out of Josh Collins.
Oh yeah,
and that's the reason I want the shoe. Like literally brought me back to like a small child watching NBA, and when he destroyed that man's life on TV, I was like, I'm buying those. I can't do that, but I'm buying them.
No, it's one of those things because if he had made that dunk 3 years ago, I would have been angry old man yelling at the clouds, because I was of the school of thought that a dunk is a guy has to not only throw the ball through the rim, but he has to hang on the rim. That's what makes it a dunk. He didn't do that with John Collins. That's the least of my concerns. Most of my concerns, how is John Collins doing right now?
Not good.
And then, on top of that, we forgot about John Collins because then he did it in the playoffs.
He just kept doing it. Like, he's literally just dunking everybody. I mean, at this point, you're not safe. He dunked on freaking KD.
He talked shit. Like,
then he hugged him after it was all over. It's like, I'm going to beat you up, but I'm going to hug you at the end.
No, and I will say this. I'm not trying to brag about my co-host, but one of them, the gentleman who showed us the fleshlight colorway, he had a really nice post on LinkedIn, because that's one thing you're going to hear a lot is fleshlight and LinkedIn in the same sentence. He had a really nice post about aforementioned shoe on LinkedIn. And I commented in the sense that, yes, I may work for the other side of this civil war, but then at the same time, like, that is the type of player and that is the type of shoe that is going to birth the next generation of sneakerheads, the next generation of hoop heads. It's going to unlock areas like Japan or India or these non-traditional basketball powerhouses, because here's my hot take, and we'll get into the advertising of it all later in the episode, but there's just something inherently charismatic about Anthony Edwards that we haven't seen in a long time, and dare I say, he's more charismatic at this age than Jordan was, because when you remember the band colorway, there wasn't really that much heavy lifting from Michael. He just stood there, the camera panned to his shoes, it did the X.
Yep.
You are seeing Anthony Edwards' personality in these commercials.
Yeah.
Can we take a second to recognize that Rohit just pulled the proverbial J. Cole and decided to like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you your props. I'm just going to back out of this.
Here's why. I made the comment on your LinkedIn, and then the next day, 3 of my coworkers, man, why are you commenting on Adi product? What's that about? And I was like,
why are you stalking me, bro? Like, let me live my life.
My whole thing was like, it doesn't say Nike on the LinkedIn right now, so I can kind of get away with it. If they click in the profile, then maybe I'll be in trouble.
I mean, so I'm going to take that and kind of pose a question to the audience and to you guys, because I think that the best thing about, I love the AE-1. Like I'm way more into it after wearing it more. I will definitely go after other colorways if I can still scoop them up somehow. But my thing about it is that it will force other brands to step their game up in a way that we just haven't seen in a long time. To Rohit's point, the charismatic aspect of Anthony Edwards is one thing that will birth new sneakerheads for future generations. But I think it's going to force people within the industry to be more creative and get out of their comfort zones. I think a lot of people in the design side, well, not just design and marketing together, right, are very comfortable. Like, and that is 100% the company's faults right now, because all the companies are in this like scarcity mode of like, oh, the economy, oh, let's not spend too much, let's be careful, like let's tread lightly here, but like let's just make sure we hit numbers. So we're going to produce a ton of X shoes and sell a ton of X shoes, as opposed to having 30 pairs of shoes that, you know, are risks, right? Like may not actually sell. And I think that this Adidas AE-1, and I would throw the Harden in there too, but specifically the AE-1, it's the biggest risk Adidas has taken on their own, right? They haven't really taken risks without having the Kanye excuse or the Kanye like opt out, right? Where like they could say, "Oh, it was Kanye. We didn't, you know."
Sorry,
like,
guys, we didn't do that.
And like that worked for a while, right? Kanye was so popular, Yeezys were everywhere, but like then Adidas was like, "Oh, well, we'll just make similar styles and we'll just stay in that lane." But now it's like, okay, well, you don't have the Kanye thing. You don't have like something that has the wow factor anywhere across the brand right now. But then you have the AE-1 that becomes that. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I hope that the designers at Nike and Puma and Reebok and everybody's looking at it like, yeah, that's what we need to be like serious about it. We need to be passionate about it, because it's not that they're not. I know people are. This is not shots at any of my friends that work at these companies, but like we all get complacent. And I feel like there's so much complacency in the footwear industry because everybody's like been in that situation of like, you know, like I got let go. I would have never thought I would have gotten let go from a job in the sneaker world. Like it just, you know, like I knew things were happening, but like I have a pretty good track record in the industry, right? So like, but like that's the kind of nature of like when everybody's kind of like hesitant, it stalls every ounce of like, or every step in the right direction for the whole industry. And I think the AE-1 is hopefully resetting that right now, because everybody feels like they're a little hesitant to take that first step towards something that may be a little questionable or challenging of the norm or whatever. With the exception of the ISPA tent shoe, of course. You know, whoever made that, like, if I had the money, I would love to have that, to be honest. But
the whole, you want the jacket too that goes with it?
I mean, it goes without saying.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta have the whole fit, right?
Yeah.
The whole neighborhood on your body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just make one that's a Sprinter van conversion, too, that I can wear, you know?
Oh, really? I was thinking a Honda Element.
Honda
I was like, throw it on a Honda, and like throw it on an Element, get a whole thing going on with it.
No, and the thing is, as well, Edwards is allowed to show his personality in a way that I don't think anyone else, and I maybe is bold to say across all of sports, across all categories. I think the best way to describe this era of the sneaker salesman from an athlete perspective is it's highly polished, it's highly guarded. We're never going to see their true opinion on things because we live in a very polarizing time.
Yeah.
They may say, hey, I prefer sausage pizza over pepperoni pizza, and then you've eliminated half of your market share because people don't like it. But Edwards, the other way, like, we are lapping up his personality in a way that we haven't seen before. And it's different also because of the fact that he is unapologetically him. And it reminds me a lot of Iverson in that regard.
I was going to say the same thing. Yep.
And it's one of those things that I think if you ask a marketing agency, like, what is the optimal ratio for a sneaker athlete and versus the shoe in terms of who has to be the star, I think for the first couple of campaigns, the athlete has to be the star because they've established their credentials in the field. The shoe has to catch up. But then let's say around that 4, 5, 6, that's when I think the shoe has to be the star because we know what we're getting with the athlete.
Yep.
And I will also say this. This may be a controversial thing for me to say, but it seems, especially given the backdrop of the NBA playoffs, Anthony Edwards has been put on this earth to do one thing, and that's seemingly eliminate every single aspect of Nike basketball. And here's why. He just took out 2 of Nike's pitchmen in the Phoenix Suns, right? He single-handedly probably market-corrected all the hype that Ja Morant was getting is now Ant Edwards hype.
Yeah.
You're lying.
And then on top of that, he's not going to mess with the Sabrina because I think Sabrina's a bit of a hollow ground. Although, if there's anybody that's got the dog in him to go cross-generational or cross-gender in terms of alienating shoes, it's Edwards. But all that being said, we still get to see him last longer in the playoffs. And the longer he lasts in the playoffs, ultimately, the more successful this entire campaign becomes, because that's more opportunity for us to not only see the commercials, see the viral posts, but also see him in action. And we talked about it. He's dunked on John Collins. He's dunked on the Phoenix Suns. He blocked that shot that was even equally as sick.
Hit his head when he was wild.
Oh, yeah, the Indiana Pacers one, but even in that Suns game. Like, he can do no wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I think the either so it kind of sucks because like the other two people that come to mind are Nike guys, right? Kyrie and Ja. And as much as like I like both of those guys as games, I don't trust their natural personality or persona towards the advertising aspect of it. And I think that's where just basketball shoes as a whole we were missing that like charisma, the Riz as the kids would say, right? And Edwards has it, man. Like he's just doing it, and it's crazy. So
yeah, I will say Kyrie's shoe is definitely, I mean, I don't want to go on that tangent, but Kyrie's shoe is definitely one of those that has that crossover appeal, it looks like, where just like the, Anthony Edwards, where people are looking to actually put it on foot and spend their day in it, not just on the court. So I like where the world's going. It's like, I know, I think Rohit used the term earlier, self-correcting. I feel like that's where we're at where it comes to sneakers. It's not just, this super, hype, retro. I feel like we're getting to a place, and I stand on this hill. I will die on this hill. Wearing performance basketball sneakers is becoming a normal thing again, which it should be, because I have all these shoes. What am I going to do? Just wait to go to a basketball court and wear them once a week, once a month? There's no way. So I like how the world is becoming just less reliant on those hype items, and like for a niche like hobby that we're in that started with people wanting to not have rules about what they wore, it seems like we put a lot of rules around it ourselves. But you can't wear that, you can't, like, shut up, just put the shoes on and live your life.
I wonder like who the last player was that had this kind of any sport, to be honest, that had this level of
enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's the best word for it.
Because anytime you and I talk about it, to us, to people outside of the three of us, the natural emotion I have is joy. And that's saying something.
Yep.
I can't think of anybody.
He also dunked on me. That's why I had to drop. He dunked on me so freaking hard. No, but I mean, the other thing that's going to be also interesting to me with regard to this, and see if I can land this plane in terms of a segue, is coming off the AE-1, I would say this. This almost feels like the golden era of debut sneakers, because I think, for better or for worse, the Sabrina 1 was this shoe last year.
Yeah.
And it corresponded with the Liberty's run in the finals. That's when we saw those traditional media around sneaker advertising. We saw the Serena spots. We saw the fact that Sabrina really likes squishies. That's part of her lore. The same way the Georgia Clay might be. Mm-hmm. Or whatever else we called it. I can't remember what the alternate colorway was. Mike will tell us, I'm sure, later. But I thought of that because that also brought me joy. And then this morning, I saw the video of, I believe, unnamed reporter, and apologies if this was cited somewhere else. I'm sure somebody will correct us. They were interviewing Sabrina because it's the throngs of the preseason, and they just asked her very casually about the Sabrina 2. And she was suppressing the biggest grin that she could possibly have about it. So that tells me maybe we got something good.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm very happy because certain things in life right now are living up to the hype, like that Drake-Kendrick beef. I thought it would not live up to the hype. It's living up to the hype. I'll drop and give everybody 50 around why I think it's living up to the hype. But what do you guys think, though? Because of the fact that we're living in a good, dare I say, resurgent era of sneakers. I don't think it's ever going to hit the Three Kings level the way Kobe, KD, and LeBron did in the early parts of the aughts or the teens. But I think we might be getting there.
Getting good because everyone is getting good. It's not just, we're not relying, like you said, on the Three Kings. We're not relying for one of those to drop. At this point, we're like, all right, how can I get my hands on that Kyrie? Sabrina, what does that second shoe look like? All right, AE, one of those lows dropping. Harden, you don't show up in the playoffs, but god dang it, your shoes show up in stores. We like them. But there's so many different options out there, and hopefully this younger crop of athletes is just follows kind of the AE example of being more charismatic, being out there, support your shoe. Don't just be, oh, I got to check, I got the shoe I got to wear. That's kind of what some people, like, it feels like. But I feel like a lot of these people are coming out the gate like, hey, I'm going to support this. My shoe's better than all your crap out there. And I like it. I like the competition because it makes it makes everyone perform better and gives us better options to buy. And that's all that matters to me, I feel like.
Yeah, I think we're also having like the other side of the footwear industry is kind of fading into this as well, in a sense. Like, we don't have a Virgil or a Kanye putting out dozens of shoes at a time, or filling up your yearly calendar with releases. So there's room for anyone to take any piece of the footwear market share, right? Yeah. Like, we're seeing it even with like tennis shoes. Like, I've seen more people wearing tennis shoes and talking about tennis shoes than, in the last 5 to 10 years. And I think that's like it's like a much needed reset for the industry. 'Cause I was probably one of the few people that, like, I wrote about this when I was at Complex, but like, I wrote about like how, you don't really need athletic ability to sell a sneaker at this point, right? Like, if you're charismatic enough, if you're, smart enough, or an entertainer that's got enough of a following, there's ways for people to sell shoes without ever setting foot on a court or a diamond or a field or whatever pitch. Like, it just doesn't, you don't need sports to sell shoes. But I think that fundamentally sports need to be a part of shoe design in order for them to be long-term legacy successful shoes, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think we're at a point where we're getting to that again, where it's like, hey, the ground layer of what we do in the footwear industry is based on performance. And then from there we can jump off and try all these different things.
Yeah. I mean, Drake said it himself, was that it got a sneaker deal, didn't have to break a sweat. So now we hopefully can change it around to where someone on the court is actually selling something worthwhile.
Yeah. So I think the Sabrina 2 is a good segue into just Olympics in general, right? Like, we were kind of debating before we started recording whether the Sabrina 2 would get leaked or unveiled for the WNBA tip-off or for the Olympics. Obviously, either of those things will be huge. But speaking about the Olympics, there's like also a lot of conversation around, Nigel Sylvester, the Jordan 4. I saw somebody posted something about a potential SB4, another SB4 colorway.
A Navy one, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And then like the Nike Jam, which is a breakdancing shoe, which I feel like, because we have someone like Chris in the Discord, we got to talk about that shoe being like a thing, because outside of, like, there's been references to breakdancing in sneakers. Like, I shared a couple pairs of Sauconys on one of the Discord calls a while back that were done for a dance crew back in the day. But like, to make a shoe that is for breakdancing specifically and have it tied to the sport being a part of the Olympics is huge, right? Like, we saw how big, like, skate stuff did when the Olympics finally brought in skateboarding into the Olympics, and how much like Nike just like leveled up with the SBs. I think this might be the first time, and probably a long time, that I'm like genuinely excited about the Olympics. And it's kind of weird because like product is driving a lot of that right now.
I mean, when Olympics come, I try not to look at too many of the advertisements, because I already have terrible buying habits as it is. Like, I try to suppress them. But something about the Olympics, I love Olympic merchandise, like in a sense of like basketball shoes. Now, freaking, it's even worse, like with skateboarding shoes. Like, I've loved skateboarding since I was a kid. I remember just watching the X Games and like, man, I wish I can do that. But now it's actually mainstream. So now it's like these two loves I have with both sports, throwing tennis as well. It's just like, they've been pushing the advertisements. Both like Nike, Adidas have been really pushing their collectives for the Olympics so far, and I need somebody to give me a coupon or something, because this is going to be a rough couple of
No, tell me about it, Mike. And I mean, it was something we were chatting about pregame as well, was Nike, and to the lesser extent the International Olympics Committee, have done the unthinkable. They've made a sport like skateboarding, which is highly individualized, highly DIY aesthetic, and they've put a uniform behind it. And more importantly, it feels authentic. It feels people are clamoring for it. We're all going to be upset in 2 to 3 months when we all go for a collective 0 for 32 on sneakers, trying to get the kits. But at the same time, like, I agree with Mike. Like, my friends used to give me a hard time because if it says USA and it's an even numbered year, I'm going to buy it. Just because as a first generation immigrant, there is just something inherently proud, I feel. And to tie this back to the Sabrina and the AE of it all, I'm hoping Sabrina and AE lead their collective squads to gold, because that's where our dominance as a country, as a nation, has been amplified. And gosh darn it, if nothing else, if we can't even get gold in this election year, I'm not voting for anybody. No, I'm voting for somebody.
We can at least dunk on people. If we can't do nothing else right, we can dunk on people and run faster. That's all we got on.
That's all we got.
That's all we can do. But, okay, so speaking of skateboarding, so we already know that Converse and Nike SB have their Olympic collective. They've been kind of advertising that, which matches with the aesthetics of the uniforms, which the uniforms, I didn't think they were going to have 2 hits back-to-back, but god dang it, they do. But the question I have, with the success of the SB4, do you guys think that we're going to see anybody wearing that Nigel Sylvester 4 on a board? Because it is lower, probably a little bit more, room to move the ankle around. Is it as supportive? Is it as comfortable? I don't know, but for the sake of having an action sports star put in that shoe and into a big stage like that, what do you think? Because he did a riding competition, so he has his parts that he puts out, but do you think we'll see anybody of a meaningful performance in that shoe?
My thing is this. Coming into the last Olympics, if you had asked me about USA skateboarding, I would have said one name, because that was their North Star in terms of their marketing, which was Nigel Houston.
Yep.
And I don't think he ended up with a gold, but he still drove the hype. That's why I wanted the sneakers, I wanted the kit, because he just made it look cool, and that's all I want from certain Olympic athletes, if you will. I don't know if a chosen one has been anointed for USA or Japan, because I think the other thing is, this time around, only the USA and Japan are getting the Nike kits, but I may be wrong. I may be dealing with outdated information. But it's going to come down to who's that person. Yeah. Because if they get that person and they kind of say, hey, wouldn't it be better if you did it on these? You're also driving the hype. Now, that being said, maybe we are 8 to 12 years away before BMX becomes an Olympic sport and we truly see the X-gamification of the Olympics. Because I think this is a warning shot, because between breakdancing and skateboarding, these are alternate sports that we never thought would be in the Olympics, but they are now.
Yeah, I mean, I think BMX is in the Olympics, right? I think there's a form. All right,
it might be the racing. It may not be freestyle. It may be like BMX racing, like the dirt racing or road racing.
Apologies.
I can't remember though. I'm kind of spitballing here. I cannot remember to save my life.
Yeah, it's in the racing has been around for a while, I think. But yeah, like freestyle. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's so much room for it to grow into like the Olympics. I don't know about the fours, the Nigels. I mean, I think Nike's a little more calculated with like SB stuff to
for sure
make sure that it's the right people. To your point, like, Nigel Houston, sold everybody on that stuff, even though he didn't have the best Olympics last time around. I don't see anybody else wearing the Nigel Sylvesters, but maybe there's a variation, that like a colorway that is not the Bike Air Nigel Sylvester version. Kind of like didn't he have like his own airship?
He had an airship. He had the Jordan 1, of course. And he also had a couple of Air Force Ones. I think those were more like the Bayou collection.
Yeah.
But the airships never made it to mass production. They were just friends and family.
But I think like he's kind of the one thing about him that's awesome is he's kind of out on his own in the BMX world, right? Like, there are other people that do what he does to a certain level, but not to the level of reach that he has and to the attention that he gets from doing, and skateboarding started that way too, right? Like, skateboarding was never like an actual, you can race on bikes or you can race on skateboards, but people aren't normally doing that. That's not really what appeals to people, right? It's the showmanship aspect of
the fluidity
sports
of the sport,
that,
like being like, it's crazy that you can do this. Like,
yeah. So I don't know. Like it would be interesting to see if there is some sort of tie into SB with that, but I don't know. Like I mean, I feel like I'm going to be the old man here, but like I'm not a fan of the shoe.
I was going to ask, that's my next question. Like, what do you think about it?
It's just not for me, but it makes me think of the Flight 45 and the Flight 9 and all those like kind of mid-level, I don't know, mid-shelf foot action, Foot Locker releases that sneakerheads don't really care about.
Yeah.
But also like, I don't know, like I'm fully aware that I'm aged out of the cool guy.
No, but the thing is this, you're on the right path because aside from, because the same thing, I'm a big fan of Nigel Sylvester. I love the action sports and I love the way he creates.
Yeah.
So I've always been a fan of his, and that's what drew me to the shoe. Wasn't the model, because the model itself is not like, oh, okay, like you said, was it Flight 89? Looks just like the shoe. But I will say, reason I'm interested, aside from the Nigel collaboration, only reason I have, like, Nike has a little or Jordan has a little cachet with me because they did so well on a Jordan 2-3 that I'm a little curious.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they've been doing better with those like kind of hybrid models over the last few years than they ever have been. I just am like, I don't know, like the 4 feels like it's almost a low top anyway.
It's
so like
that close, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think it's more that it bothers me that they wouldn't just call it like the Air Nigel or whatever.
Just give him his own shoe.
Give him his own shoe instead of like saying, "Oh, this is a 4 low that never existed," and then putting his stuff on it. I feel like that's the thing that like kind of doesn't sit right with me. But I don't know. Like I also want to see other colors because like that colorway to me doesn't do it. I mean, it's not bad, but it's like okay,
it's better.
Yeah, like there'll be other colorways where I'll be like, "Oh, I like this,"
What do you think, bro? Do you like that one?
I don't mind it, but I think it's also one of those things that 5 years ago, I think they would have made it the Air Nigel. I think they are making a very clear effort not to give signature athletes because I think they almost overextended themselves. And it felt like that Oprah meme of, you get a signature shoe, you get a signature shoe, you get a signature shoe. And then it kind of lost its meaning. And now I think they're almost regressing to the mean and saying nobody gets a shoe. Unless you're like a transcendent player like a Caitlin Clark or a Mike Trout or whatever the case may be. But I am cautious to see because this Olympics for me, especially with regards to skateboarding, is how I perceive it to be a sport going forward. Because I feel you can't judge a sport's impact and popularity in the Olympic backdrop in its first Olympics because everybody's got that happy to be there face. Mm-hmm. This time around, like I'm interested to see because the one thing the Olympics does probably better than any other sporting competition is it really births a lot of amateur experts on sports that none of us give a damn about outside of these every 4-year things. Like the famous viral clip of Snoop and Kevin Hart talking about the crip walking horse. And they're like, look at that technique. Hey, cuh.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah, it's a fantastic thing. And for me, the skateboarding thing can only be amplified if the product is good. Because I think now it's getting to that spot. Also because we're in a time and phase of this world where any sport can have its moment in the sun because the likelihood of somebody going viral on any Olympic event is all that much higher. Yeah. And if we can have, like, right now, one of my biggest obsessions is quarterback breakdown accounts. So you'll have ex-pro quarterback, ex-college quarterback that's going to analyze the game film and tell you why this quarterback did what he did right or wrong. And it's slowly working. And now I'm waiting for somebody in the skateboarding world to do that because I like what I see. I just don't know my ass from my elbow when I watch it. So I think that education process is going to go a long way. And if you have some sort of window dressing, like a nice shoe or a nice kit that goes alongside it, it can only extend the shelf life.
Hot take that I think is going to be the deciding factor. It kind of went with what you talked about last year, what you were waiting for. Biggest star in the game, still Nyjah, even though Yuto has been like right on his heels. It's kind of been like the... is it
a Federer and Nadal thing, Mike?
Thank you. There we go. Federer Nadal thing. That's a perfect way to.
I do that.
And I think Nyjah has to win a gold medal, not to make it relevant, but to really get the conversation going, because we didn't have the conversation because our guy didn't win. You know?
But Mike, how like you're about that life in a way that I'm not until the Olympics start, and then after the Olympics are done, if I remember it, great. If not, I'll see you next 4 years. Who is considered the front runner? Because I would assume, based on the dominance of Ito, I believe is how you say it, and please correct me if I'm wrong. His performance last time was spellbinding. Nobody came close. And I'm wondering, is he the preliminary heads-on favorite to win again, or has Nyjah been in the lab, taken the disgust and use it as fuel for this Olympics?
I honestly, I haven't kept up with Street League this season. That's a lot of where this thing, Street League and do tours where they have the qualifications, and then like there's another tournament they do, or another competition they do. I haven't watched a single one this year. I've been so dang busy, but something's telling me Yuto is still kind of their front runner at this point. Nyjah's just been, the last couple of years, he just came off a pretty bad injury. I can't remember what it was, but he just has to get back in the flow of things. I don't know if he's won anything. I haven't checked. Now you're gonna make me go pull up YouTube and sit up all night watching a couple different competitions. But I feel like Nyjah has to win. They're both Nike athletes. They're right there. Again, it's like the Federer Nadal thing. Both under the same brand, so it's not like the brand's losing anything. But it's something about Nyjah's just that bigger name around the world as a whole, as opposed to a region. Which I don't want to even shortchange Yuto that way as just a region, but we don't see him like you see Nyjah in all his YouTube channel, his content creation of like he's out here doing this, he's out here doing that. And for the kids who are following him to be able to see him get that gold medal, I think that can just like soccer. If U.S. can ever figure out how to get to a finals game in the World Cup, I'm talking U.S. men, that is, if they can find a way to get to the finals of the World Cup, women done it a few times already. That's one of those things that can drive a sport forward, I think. And again, it's in the infancy of being in the Olympics, so there's gonna be new people coming up, because guarantee you, females. And then Brazilian females who are under the age of 15 are destroying skateboards right now because of
in a good way.
Raya? Yeah, yes. Is it Raya?
Yep.
She is killing it. She started with did she win? She won the gold right last time, and she was 11, 12, something like that. I may be at the age wrong, but super young.
Who is it?
She just got an SB. I think her name's Raya, and I could be completely wrong with her name, but she got the SB, the friendship bracelet. SB was her player edition. And she's super young, like under 16. If I'm not mistaken.
Me ask you this, Mike. And apologies because I keep butchering his name, Yuto?
Yuto.
Has Yuto gotten any sort of player edition or his own signature shoe? Because I would think
loved it.
Yeah, SB Dunk. Yeah.
Last year's a dunk. It was
so I will go back under the rock that I came up from, and I will find it. And if it's cool, I'm sure I'll make a edible, intoxicated bid on some sort of website around a shoe. But
oh, do it, because it's super cool. So it represents Tokyo in the concrete, but also there's like hints of like the cherry blossom pink. It's such a simple shoe. It has little browns, of course, that represent like dirt roads and things. It's a beautiful shoe. But that's my skateboarding rant today, guys. Everybody.
I know, I liked it.
I'm looking at the World Skateboarding Ranking. This is World Skate SB and World Skate Official, their Paris 2024 rankings. Number 1 is Sora Shirai. 2 is Nyjah Houston, Gustavo Ribeiro. Yuto is 7.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of names that are not household names in the skate world to me. I mean, granted, I'm in the same boat as Mike. I haven't watched anything in months, it seems like, because I've just been busy with life. But I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. But
it's an open sport now. Unless your name was Tony Hawk back in the day, like where he was guaranteed to win just because he was going to do something insane. This sport is so open. You can come in first, you can come in 7th, and it comes to rankings. I feel like you can pull out some crazy trick or just have some crazy momentum in a run, and you got the gold. I mean, it's just a game of runs. Basically.
I think
game of runs.
I think skateboarding is also and BMX are also like these anomalies when it comes to sport where you can somehow be insulated from like certain aspects of the sport or isolated from certain aspects of the sport, I should say, where like I just wrote a week or two ago about Guy Mariano getting a Dickies signature line, which
okay.
I've watched that guy since I was like 12 or something, 13, this is like, he was a kid. Like I was like he was a kid hanging out with these like adults skateboarding, like when he first came out. And I've watched him go through like all sorts of different sneaker brands, all sorts of life struggles. He's been very transparent about that stuff, which is one thing I really admire about him. But then to see him get that recognition and that partnership and the signature, like apparel deal with a brand like Dickies, who I like obviously have been like a big supporter and wearer of all my life, it's pretty surreal. But like that's also completely removed. This guy's, my age, 40s, and getting these opportunities where like the Olympics obviously, you're not going to have like 30, 40, like everybody's young. To your point, it's like you got people that are 13, 14 years old out there, winning right now. So it's really interesting, like how it's going to start to open up, I think, the sport to both of those sports. I'm talking about BMX and skate. Cause like, if you would have told me that either of those sports would be in the Olympics when I was a kid and doing that stuff, I would have thought you were nuts. I would have been like, this guy's from another planet. There's no way ever that this will be an Olympic sport. And yet here we are,
For sure.
So,
dude, I think if this would have happened when I was a kid still skateboarding, I definitely would have kept trying to be better.
Yeah.
Just it gives such an incentive. Like I can represent like my country. I can be on the world stage in the sport that people said is just a troublemaker sport.
Yep.
So I think it's awesome.
No, and I think one other thing as well, you were mentioning the age of the average Olympian that's competing in the sport, right? My mind naturally gravitates towards gymnastics because I feel like that's a very apt comparison. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like you see people top out at, let's say, 21 or 18. I think we're going to see something similar with skateboarding as well. And then the other thing is as well, we notice now, like, remember when Yao Ming first came to the NBA and there was talk about, they have like 500 7-footers in China that they are essentially kind of cultivating to be the next Yao and start establishing a pipeline of talent. I think we're going to start seeing that with skateboarding, which to me might make the skateboarding enthusiast in me cringe a little because it seems to go up against everything you are not supposed to like about skateboarding. But then I do think ultimately it comes down to this. We as human beings like to be celebrated, even if it's the most counterculture activity that we can find. So I think this is one of those happy marriages that happens. And it can only go better because I think ultimately skateboarding, as much as it is about that DIY aesthetic, it's also about that community. And if the globe embraces it the way that we think it will, the way we've just spent the past 15 minutes talking about the apparel and the shoes and the athletes behind it, then I think we're in a good spot.
Yep.
I agree. I'm giving one of my kids a skateboard. Someone's going to the Olympics.
Yeah, I'm waiting for, how there's Project Mbappe or Project Otani. I'm waiting for some rural farmer who really falls in love with skateboarding, and it's like Project Houston.
Yeah. We're getting Jethro out on a skateboard out there.
Yeah.
So.
No, hey. Speaking of Jethro on the mic, Nick.
Trying to bring it back. Look at that.
We're talking about looking good, feeling good. I know that there is a certain retro that may have caught your eye around one primetime Deion Sanders. Like, what are you thinking? And more importantly, tell us, in case we have not been aware, like what's happening in, I think, in a couple of weeks?
Wait, is it a couple of weeks?
I thought it was around late May, early June.
Man.
I think you're right on that. I can't. It's not loaded up on sneakers yet that I know of. But yeah, I've heard it is going to be right around the corner.
And that around the corner essentially is the retroing of the Deion Sanders. Is it the Field General?
Or the DT Max, right?
Have I gotten DT Max? Apologies.
DT Max.
And it's one of those things that, like, if you're paying attention to the greater Nike cinematic universe, you're seeing LeBron wear, like, LeBron watches for his favorite Deion shoe as remodeled as a LeBron 21 or 20. So we know it's right around the cusp, but, like, are we excited about this? Because I almost felt like this is a little too late in the game. I feel like this would have hit a lot more in the first 4 weeks of the college football season last year, because that was when Deion was truly making us believers out of the Colorado Buffalo team.
Okay, this is my caveat. I want the shoe. I'm going to try to get it. But I would much rather have the pair he had with the React midsole. That's the pair I want. Did you guys see those that he was wearing on the field? That's the pair I want. But I'll take what I can get.
So that's always a struggle, right? Like, I think those look great, right? Plain and simple, they look great. Yeah. I would buy them, you know. But generally speaking, most people want it to look like the original True and True, right? And that's just such a that to me is like the talking point of a Deion retro, a Griffey retro, any of these athletes that are not quite mainstream still, but like Deion, to your point, Rohit, 4 months ago, he was in the limelight every single Saturday, every single Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
And Sunday.
And Sunday.
If the game sucked,
exactly. Yeah. So like,
he got 4 days out of the week.
So like, you know, maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity there, but if Nike is like gonna go, let's call that a Protro, right? Because it's pretty much taking a classic shoe and throwing on modern, you know, cushioning and tech and all that. If they're gonna go down that path for someone like Deion, then they need to do it for a lot of other athletes as well. And I think that opens up a can of worms that is not necessarily profitable, because Deion is the one legacy athlete, in my opinion, that has somehow found himself back in the limelight in a way that could easily sell shoes. I don't think you would get that from somebody like a Griffey or a Barkley or any of the other athletes. So I think they kind of had to do the regular, you know, Max Air cushioning and make it traditional. But I would be stoked if they actually did like the React or whatever it was. That was React. Was it React?
So Nick,
yeah,
it was React.
Okay,
it was React midsole.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you call it a can of worms. I almost think of it as a canary in a coal mine. I think they are utilizing this as an opportunity to say, okay, what can we do? Because to your point, there's always a Venn diagram of people wanting things to be as authentic as possible to the retro, but then I feel, especially in the last 5 years, there's been a growing and vocal minority saying, no, like, give me the outside aesthetic of the shoe, but modernize it, because it sucked wearing the original version of these shoes. So I'm curious to see if they do it, because the other thing is, like, Deion also came back to Nike. There was about a 15-year period where he was not necessarily persona non grata, but, like, we did not see him establish himself as a Nike OG the way he was in the early 90s.
He was with Under Armour. Yeah. Like, he had to deal with Under Armour for a few years,
so he took the coaching job. Until he took the coaching job with Colorado, he was with that, but they kind of buried the hatchet. Once he took the job, it just made sense because they were a Nike school, so all the stars aligned for that. But my thing is this: they spoiled us with all these soft running shoes, these lifestyle shoes. My feet hurt. Let me can y'all just give me something with some React in it? Like, just, it's not hard. Just replace the crappy foam and put React in it.
I agree. I mean, I would love to see all of that stuff be redone in modern stuff. I think, like, I feel like I'm also in the minority, and maybe you guys are probably in that minority as well, but, like, I love the LeBron watch stuff. Absolutely think that is the best thing in basketball shoes over the past, like, 10, 15 years. Like, I think that LeBron is the last of a generation that actually has that affinity towards the OG sneakerhead sneakers. I think that, like we talked about Anthony Edwards, he's not going to have memories of Deion. Like, there's just, it's not there for him, right?
He has memories of LeBron. There may be AE watch that are inspired by LeBron.
Exactly.
As absurd as that sounds.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think, like, that is the closest we got to having those retro, because they did. I got a pair of the Deion 15s, 17s. Yeah, I can't remember which one.
It's like the Diamond Turf. It's a Diamond Turf 15s.
But there's so many good ones. When I start to go down that rabbit hole, I have to, like, back off, because, like, I would love to have the Griffies. Like, there's so many that he did throughout the years. All the ACG colorways.
Did you see his new one? The Diamond Turf LeBron 21?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that shoe's...
If they release that, I'm buying
that shoe's dope.
Like, no question.
I'd buy that over the original currently.
Me and you both.
Yeah.
Me and you both. Give me Zoom, give me React, or whatever it is he's using. Kushlon, give me all the good things.
I think that is, like, a really tough thing to try to sell, though. Like,
people complain. If everyone finds something to complain about, they're going to complain that one's not comfortable, but if they changed it, they'll complain it doesn't look right. I'm like, look.
Yeah.
Just shh.
Yep.
Stop whining.
Yep. I don't know. I guess that's probably a good place to wrap, though. Where do you land? If you're listening to this still, thank you for making it through to the end. Where do you land on the whole LeBron watch or Deion shoes? Do you need traditional cushioning, or you want something new and modern and Protro-like? We'd love to hear from you. But you should follow these guys. They're going to tell you how to find them, because then you can just tell them directly, and you can get more pictures of Mike's AE-1s. I can't even say it.
Yeah. I was having the same boat. I'm like, I'm gonna pass the baton to Roy. Let's let Roy go first, because he's fading out into the darkness right now before he disappears.
No, I've been getting looks from a lot of the patrons of the Whole Foods in Tigard, Oregon.
He's like,
No, you can find me on Instagram at RohitM13. You can find me on Threads at RohitM13, on Twitter /X, Roheezy. And yeah, if I'm lucky, and you're lucky, more importantly, you can hear me in your earbuds about once or twice a week as a part of the Nick Engvall cinematic universe. Mike, where can they find you?
Oh, you can always find me here on Sneaker History, of course. Find me Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at MadWatchers789, and of course on YouTube, just under Mike Guillory.
You can find me at Nick Engvall on all the platforms. More importantly, make sure you hit the first link in the description. Join the community. Discord is awesome. There's a lot of cool what did you wear today things going on. We do themed shoes every week on Thursdays. We do community calls. It's just a good group of people, and you should be a part of it if you're listening to this. So hopefully you'll do that. You can follow at Sneaker History everywhere else, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace. Hey, Nick here again. Before you take off, I want to thank you for listening to the Sneaker History podcast. Be sure to hop into our Discord to answer this episode's The Last Shot question and get to know our community of sneaker enthusiasts. If you'd like more insights on the trending topics in the sneaker world, I've also recently started a newsletter to share my knowledge from nearly 2 decades of experience working in the footwear industry. You can find the link to that below, or go to sneakerhistory.com/newsletter. And last but not least, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to be on the receiving end of some appreciation. Thank you for all the support, and we will catch you on the next episode. Peace.